Mic check. Welcome back to another episode of the Second Half Podcast. You know, we're here to have great conversation, talk to former athletes about how they transition successfully into their post-career. Before we get started, hit that like, follow, and subscribe. I ain't gonna lie, this is another great guest, one that I grew up with, a huge competitor in high school. We got to battle in some games. But not only that, he ended up taking his career far beyond that, playing overseas for 11 years. He was a McDonald's All-American nominee, made it to the Final Four. Like, we get to talk a little bit about that. You know, Final Four, not only that, you're playing alongside, you know, Travis and who's Travis Diener, Steve Novak, and a Hall of Famer we'll get to in a second. But also, he's made a huge impact and really servicing and helping motivate and drive the youth and the future of the game, which I love, and we get to dive into that with Chapman Basketball Academy. None other than my brother, Joe Chapman. Joe, man, appreciate you being on the podcast, man.
Man, it's been a long time coming. Love what you're doing from afar. You know, I always gave you little jabs on Instagram. Like, man,
yes, sir.
A lot of us talking about the second half, and that second half is important, and it's a great concept. Love what you're doing, and excited to be on.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it, man. It's such an important conversation, as we were just talking about, right? We know the journey and the transition. Not many people get to share that, but here we get to do that. You know, the thing that brought us together clearly was basketball, and you know, it's great to just share this platform and be able to share your journey and your story along with it. So let's go ahead and start from the jump, man. Like, where did the journey begin for Joe Chapman? Like, where you from?
Oh, I grew up in Southside Chicago. I was born in Rosewood Hospital, Roseland area. So 73rd and Stewart, you know, that's my beginnings of who I am. First 7 years lived in 7 different houses in the city.
Oh, wow.
Just moved around to the hundreds, moved around to Morgan Park area. There's a lot of different areas to move to.
Yeah.
So my foundation is all, you know, inner city Chicago. First 7 years. Then we moved to the south suburbs. Chicago Heights is where I moved to from there.
Okay.
Lived there for a couple years. Then we moved to Sauk Village, Illinois, and we stayed there for about 10, 15 years. So started in Chicago, and just made my way to different parts, different hoods. And, and that's really how my journey started. So it really helped me in my second half of going to play overseas. It didn't bother me of playing, you know, different places, because that's how I grew up.
Easy to adjust.
School, different people, the journey. None of that really bothered me, because that's how I was growing up.
Got you. So obviously you're moving around, you know, South Side, growing up there, bouncing around, ended up out in the south suburbs and in the Heights and, you know, Sauk Village area. What was that kind of journey like, living out there, building it? Was basketball your only sport that you kind of started to thrive in, or did you play any others? Yeah,
I played other sports too. I played football. But in football, I got hurt in 8th grade. And it was a deadly injury. At recess, caught a fly ball, landed in a pothole. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, landed in that pothole. My knee was on the left side. My kneecap was on the left side. I tore my ACL, broke my leg in 3 places. Got 6 screws in my knee still from that incident. Not having the best health care. They just gave me the best surgery they can give me at the time. So I got this big, long scar, from that incident. That kind of scarred me from football. So I kind of stay away from that lane. But definitely it was a blessing in disguise, because every bad thing that happened to me, great things follow. And I'm a big component of that, big believer of that. Whatever people go through bad, 3 or 4 great things are going to happen after that. So I really started to learn the game. I was a huge athlete, 6th through 8th grade. I can dunk by 7th grade. I can fly. I'm one of those type athletes that
I remember. I remember.
And it was just a blessing. And then I broke my leg, and then I turned into a skilled player. So one of the things my mom did was took all my Jordan posters down.
Really?
Room, and she put Larry Bird posters up. And that kind of pissed me off because, we didn't like the Celtics growing up. It didn't represent nothing I liked. Didn't like the Pistons either.
Right, of course.
You know what I mean? They beat us up bad in those
Yeah,
days. So,
yeah.
but to really tap into Larry Bird and how he played the game and how he used his skill set really helped me as a player. So when I got into high school, with already the competitive nature I had, now I'm being a skilled player, combining the two. That just wasn't normal in the area that I was in. It wasn't guys, that can go left, go right, shoot, any type of way. That wasn't normal in the hood that I was in. There was a lot of athletes, a lot of gritty guys, but it wasn't a lot of guys that was like super, super skilled.
Yep. Take me back a little bit. I know you mentioned your mom, your dad. Who was the one that ultimately put the ball in your hands so you could say, okay, this is the way? Cool, football, that's out. You tore your knee up at reset, that ain't gonna happen. So, obviously your mom, it sounds like she was very instrumental in that. But like, tell me who was the one who ultimately was like, hey, we're gonna take you every Saturday morning. You going to the gym, you getting into that rhythm.
Yeah, that was my pops, my brother and my dad. They the one, we in the West Pullman area in Chicago. We used to go to West Pullman Park. He used to put the ball in my hand every Saturday, every Sunday, just playing on the side, watching them play, getting that inspiration. When it was your turn to get out there, you trying to compete against the old heads. So you not, coming off the court, you got to learn how to play. With old heads, it's different. It's a different brain. But I always tell kids, like, once you learn how to play with older people, it's easier from there because it's more physical. They move the ball better. It's not a one-on-one game. It's a physical game. It's a trash talking game. You got to get to it. So once you learn how to do that, the sky's the limit. And that's what happened to me. I learned how to play. My brother's 5 years older than me, so I learned how to play with his age group first. They took me everywhere. They played on a Saturday, Sunday. They either let me play, they let me watch. There was courts outside. Yep. I was always had the ball in my hand, and as you know, the Bulls was popping back then. That if you didn't have an inspiration in the crib, you had it on WGN. You know what I mean? So you pop that game on, and I really loved how Pippen played the game. I'm a huge fan of Scottie Pippen. Obviously, Jordan's the GOAT. But I just loved how he played as far as I'm going to get everybody going. I'm going to get myself going. I'm going to guard the best guy. I'm going to take over when I need to. He's going to be remembered as one of the best players to play the game after, they get through all of this, what they're going through. But that was my inspiration. Is my brother, is my dad. They showed me how to play the game. They talked to me about it. We watched it all the time. So it just became a passion of mine.
Love it. Man, it's something beautiful about, just knowing that when we grew up, how we were inspired by these greats like Scotty and MJ, like how would our core group of people, like, even though, us being in Joliet, Chicago, South, wherever we were inspired by WGN and how influential that played a role into us making it to and taking us along our journey and our incredible, it's so, hearing that is just like, man, it brings back memories. I remember sitting there.
For sure. Watching, like, a lot of us didn't have cable. Like, a lot of us didn't have the essential things that a lot of our kids have now. So, having Channel 9, which I can just flip through on my TV, that was huge because
rabbit ears and all.
Right. It's like, man, I can watch this and be inspired and just try to be something that, we had the best player ever to come through in a generation. So all of us who are, late 30s, mid 40s, early 50s should be, inspired just by playing basketball.
Absolutely. So let's go into this. So high school. You started to find that rhythm, right? You were inspired by Larry Legend, Larry Bird. Take me a little bit into that journey with that because you started, I saw, because I got to play against you. So what was that journey like? What was that kind of work ethic that you had to put in during that time?
Yeah, well, and a lot of people don't know. So Chicago Heights, Sauk Village, Ford Heights, it's really two schools, and like Joliet Central, Joliet Township, we're very similar. So Bloom Trail and Bloom is actually two schools, but one athletic program.
Yep.
So going into my freshman year, it's probably like the third, fourth year as they combined. They combined in 95. We got in school, I think 98, 99 was our first year. So, there's still rumblings like, man, we got 60-some kids trying out for the freshman team. And you're looking like, man, as an A and B team, that's really only going to be 30 kids at max.
At max, exactly.
At max, So I'm going through the doors, super confident. I'm coming off my leg injury. But, I'm like 3-4 months removed from it. I'm walking through the door of Bloom Trail knowing that I'm the best player. Just by my work ethic, who I am. Even if somebody was better than me, I got an older brother who's 5 years older. You ain't better than him, so you're going to have to see me, on the court.
Yeah.
So I remember just going into my coach, Gary Meyer, who passed away recently, and I told him during lunch period, I told him, like, I'm going to be the best player you ever had. First time I met him. And he was like, man, I don't even know who the hell you are. That's his first words he told me.
Yeah.
And I said, you're gonna know who I am. And just going through that process of meeting people, I think is so important. It's 6 to 7 different communities into one athletic program. So I was meeting so many different people. First day of tryouts, I remember meeting Antonio Koo, who became one of my really best friends. And I've never met him. He's in Chicago Heights. I'm in Fort Heights, South Village. We don't really know each other, but everyone's like, man, you're going to know this Antonio Koo. This dude is nice. And he's hearing the same thing about me, but we don't know each other.
Yep.
So we end up getting to school, and we're like, man, it's about 100 to 150 kids trying out for a team. So, now that I'm thinking about it, that journey of making that team was huge.
Yep.
Because the path that a lot of kids didn't have of making a team took them down the wrong path. So I was fortunate enough to be one of the kids that was selected on the A team that first year, and that really set the foundation of my basketball journey. Because 6th through 8th grade, I was still messing around, doing the wrong things. My dad wasn't around at that time. Started, doing drugs and running the streets. And so I didn't really see my dad during that time period. And my mom worked second and third shift, so I really didn't see her. So the streets, that became your friends. And in our era, we didn't know the difference. Like, your friends are the same people who was doing the wrong stuff. But, them your friends. So you didn't really see anything at 12, 13, 14. You didn't see anything kind of wrong with it. So freshman year of high school, I got jumped. The first week, I got jumped.
Wow.
First week. A rival gang, a guy jumped me. It's about 2 or 3 of them. And I remember it because I'm walking like, what's up? My gang's here. You guys there. I got hit. And it was like a light flash. Like, I don't think I want to do this.
That's not what I need to be out.
You know what I mean? Like, my timetable changed from there. And then people started respecting me as I made the basketball team my freshman year. We had codes back then, and you know about it. Like, if you were a hooper, they let you alone.
Cross.
You know what I mean? They left you alone. They saw that I was going to be something. The hood people left me alone. The gang members left me alone. They were just like, man, you got to go down this path. That's why I'm a huge believer of the village. I'm a huge believer of God, because he put us in positions to be successful. And we just don't see it at that age. As we're in our second half, I kind of see it more.
Yep,
so,
sure do.
You know what I mean? So that freshman year, I made that team. We were pretty good. We didn't have to move up, because teams back in our day, it was a privilege to make the A team of your freshman team. Right now, these kids jump that so fast and get to varsity as a freshman.
Yeah.
And you're missing steps of your development by doing that.
Agreed.
So I didn't have to move up, because that I looked up to those juniors and seniors to help me down my path, and those sophomores who were on JV. It was fun to finally get to your sophomore, junior year and say, man, I made varsity. That was a huge thing in our community.
Absolutely.
So that was the freshman year. We went great. Sophomore year, the the junior and seniors were kind of struggling a little bit. So we were rolling as sophomores, Antonio Cool, myself, and others. We were rolling. So, by the time the Big Dipper came around, the junior and seniors wasn't playing well. Coach was like, man, we're not doing what we're supposed to do. It's time for you three. With Robert Davis, our point guard, he was like, you guys need to move up. It's time for you guys to.
It's time.
It's time. You know what I mean? So that confidence and who I was and me telling that coach who I was going to be, about time he moved me up and I'm playing with Phil Alexander. Aaron Austin, Dale Mills. Like these are the guys I looked up to as hoopers. I'm going on that team like, man, I don't care about none of that. Like, it's go time. Like, you got me on here. It's time to go. We came off the bench, and as soon as we subbed in, it was time to play. We didn't care. Who's a senior out there, who was, Eddie Curry and all that. We didn't care. So it was just time to hoop when it was time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And what people don't realize, and those who were around during, those 2001, 2002 classes, every night was a battle. Like, even conferences, like, people don't understand. Like, we talk about, Chicago, this, Chicago, that, yes, but there was so much talent in Chicago, but there was so much talent in the suburbs too. Like, in our conferences, right? You had you, Antonio, then you go down the way to Lincoln Way, you got Kevin Menard who went to Marquette, right? You had James Augustine who went to Illinois. Then you go over to Lockport and you got Lando who went to, like, we literally had the Big Ten in the suburbs. We had Roger, Kellen Easley, Jeremy, so many others. Like, it was just night in, night out. It's like, hey, you got to show up.
Yeah, you got to show up.
That's what it was.
You got to show up. And there was a time where that 2001, 2002, you can really have a great argument about which conference was the best with Red West and Siga East. That Siga East was an animal with Buckley.
Siga East, Melvin Buckley, David Moss, Ed,
it
was tough.
That was battles every night with Thornton and Thornridge and Thornwood and Hillcrest and HF
and
some battles every night in the South suburbs, like you said.
It was tough.
And my sophomore year, when we moved up and we played Lincoln Way, and they're like, man, Kevin Menard is going to be one of the guys going to Marquette. I said, man, listen, coach, put me on him.
That's the one you want.
I need to see what this is about. And that sophomore year, we came off the bench, and I got a chance to kind of see the game, as the flow of the game is happening.
Yeah.
As we were, making our journey downstate that year, and we was 14-13 heading into the state tournament. So we had
which is unheard of.
Unheard of. It was like, well, they moved us up. This team is not doing what they supposed to do. We're going to move you guys up so we can make the best of this season. Yep. So we had a gauntlet to go through. I mean, the first round was Providence with big fella Michael Thompson.
Yep, Mike Thompson. Yep, I grew up with him. He and I started playing basketball together. So you know what I'm like?
Yeah.
But 6'10", went to Duke, transferred to Northwestern. Like, come on, like that's first round.
First round. I'm like, man, how we supposed to get past this? But in our conference, we had Chris Alexander and Eddie Curry. So we had 6'10", 7 foot.
You was used to that. Yep.
We're kind of used to it. So. We got past them, and I think we had HF in the second round with TJ Cummings.
TJ Cummings, UCLA.
Man, we are loaded in this conference, so we had to get through them on the road, and then we had to play Lincoln Way, and that's when things started to change, and Coach started to believe in his younger players more. Antonio, we call him Snug. We had breakout games. That game, 25, 28 off the bench. And once you start to get that notoriety, when you're that young, because newspapers was popping back then. Mm-hmm. You were in the Daily Southtown or the Sun-Times or the Tribune. You cutting that out and you sending that to all your people. That was a big deal back then for us. So, we beat Lincoln Way on the road at Lincoln Way. And we knew we had to get to Joliet. And then we knew that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely loaded that year. and Joliet Township, boy, it's like Chicago Heights. I mean, the people was rowdy. I mean, it was a crowd in there. It was popping in there. I mean, everybody was going nuts. And, we had Roger Powell to deal with, and he was an animal on the offensive glass.
Illinois, nice coaching at Valpo.
Yeah. And, I run into these guys all the time because I'm on the AAU trips, and I see all these. And we go out to dinner and we hang out. But
I love it.
We had to get through them. And, it's just started going from there. End up going downstate that year. Hit the tip to go downstate and beat Brother Rice. And it just started right there. I felt like after that sophomore year, I was going to be, junior, senior year, having some really successful years at Bloom.
Yeah. At that time, did you end up playing AAU ball at all?
Yeah, I did. And that sophomore year, sophomore year, played for Illinois Wolverines. And that's now kind of like the main streets, Ty Streets and all those guys played for Illinois Wolverines with Coach Newquist. So that was our, thing there. And we stayed loyal to him. He was loyal to us, and we just created powerhouses through loyalty. Obviously, Larry Butler started calling my junior year.
Of course.
He saw me at the Dipper, and I'm on the cover of the Dipper. And he came to the game. It was me and Michael Hall, and that's another one. Played at Shepherd.
Shepherd, George Washington played. We just had guys.
Yeah, guys. Him and Mike Smith was hard to deal with. Work together. And Big Reggie.
Yes. Big Reggie too. 6'10", him going to Nebraska. It's like everybody. It was tough.
That era was tough. So Larry Butler started calling, but I was loyal to my guys. I was loyal to my teams that I played with, and I kind of stick that to the guys now. Like, loyalty matters.
Agreed.
Never you want to go to the same prom with the girl who asked you. So I try to teach my kids that now. But that was kind of my journey. That junior, senior year, we were very successful. I think we lost to you guys in the sectional finals or something like that. That junior year, and that's just the progression. And I had I know we're going to get into the recruiting part of it. That's when it kind of took off for me after that junior year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, when did it start? Did people hey, we knocking on the door, man? Them letters start to come because we didn't have it to the point, people were getting recruited through Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Like, we didn't have that. Only thing we had was we weren't even in MySpace era at that time, but people was, it was a big thing. You get that bag of letters, coach, like, hey, here's your letters you got. So who was kind of in your inbox, in your mailbox, if you will? It
was Marquette. Marquette was number one. We took out Lincoln Way. Coach Crean was there. So that's how I started. He came back the next night and we played Joliet with Roger Powell. So, he saw that as a sophomore. And then he started following me over the summer, coming to my tournaments. He was the first head coach to reach out to me, offer me, and that stuck with me. Then junior year came around, everybody started knocking, from Xavier to Bradley to Michigan State. Those were my, schools that I was considering the most. But Illinois was the school I wanted to go to. And
really?
I think the coach at the time was Bill Self. Bill Self was there. We were playing at Moody Bible. And at that point, I was still a power forward. I played the 4. And he looked at me. I was probably top 5 in the state at that time still. Mm-hmm. And he's like, we don't recruit undersized 4 men. And he said that right in my face because I was like, man, we just played Proviso East in the Moody Bible tournament. I had 35 to 40, and that's against Shannon and D. And, the little point guard, forget his name, but I loved his game. Richardson.
Charles Richardson, I remember, Yeah, he was nice.
He was nice, and we just battled. Nice. And he's watching the whole game. So, I ended up just asking him, like, hey, what I need to do? What do you see? He's like, to be honest with you, you're doing a great job, but we just don't recruit small guys at that. And that just put a spark in my head, like, oh, okay, I'm going to show you.
Right,
I went to the gym every day. I worked as a janitor at my high school during the summer. Shout out to the superintendent to allow me to do that, Ron Patton. Gave me a job, gave me an outlet to give back, to have gym access, and learn what 9 to 5 workers, essential workers, do for us. And that
Yeah,
gave me a different type of mindset of living a day-to-day job that it's essential to us, teachers, janitors,
absolutely.
administrators. I saw
Hmm.
those people on a daily basis try to make our community and school better. So I ended up working on my game, and my senior year I became a three.
Yep.
So me and Snug was at the 2 and 3 my senior year. Made over 83s my senior year at a 50% clip.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to stick it to him to show him I'm better than what you think I am. And I try to tell that to all kids. It's like you're going to come a point where you need to be a 3 level scorer. You got to
Yep.
learn how to Barkley and have different moves in the post. You got to learn how to put it off the dribble, but you got to also learn how to shoot and read the game from the outside too. So once you can do that, it's going to be hard for coaches to deny who you are. Um, so I kind of, my junior, senior year, I try to make that transition over.
Yep.
Um, and that's really why I became successful at Bloom. Was a 2-time All-State there, like you mentioned, and McDonald's All-American nominee. Really kept elevating my game and keep trying to grow my game.
Yep. Yep. For sure. Now, obviously, like you said, Coach Crean was in your ear the most. He was the one who was, and I sense this theme of just loyalty and just being there. Like you said, back with the Illinois Wolverines turn mean streets. Regardless of who else was coming around, you were loyal to whoever was there in the beginning.
Yep.
Coach Crean, what was, and I had I was fortunate enough to be able to work with Coach Crean through one of the camps after the playing, and I was trying to figure things out. But what was it like for you being recruited by him, but also learning from him as a coach?
Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, Coach Crean was great. I mean, he is like a Bobby Knight type of coach. He's very
Intense.
disciplinary. If you didn't have a father like I did that was present, he's going to tell you exactly how he feels and what you need to do without sugarcoating it.
Mm,
Now it's up to you to kind of figure out how to take it and
yep.
get better at it. But he's not going to let you slide with anything. And you appreciate that now. But as you're going through it, it was hell. I mean, but I tell every freshman, sophomore, if you're not ready to leave your school by December, you're not in the right place. As
Yeah.
a freshman, sophomore, you should be damn near ready to quit because of how hard it is. Like,
Yeah.
from the players that's already there, the expectations, from the weight room, from the school, from everything. It should be that hard that you should be like, damn, I got to figure this out,
Yeah.
and that's how he was with us. He made you uncomfortable. That whole theme of like strip you of what you know so I can break you down to build you back up.
Mm,
He's a master of that. Great X and O guy. And he just understood the game, and he player development is his strength. As you can see,
yeah.
all of his guards got better each year under his guide, and you can just see like he's invested into like personal growth as
Yeah.
far as a basketball player.
For sure, for sure. Now, obviously, him putting the X's and O's together, him putting the pieces, around to thrive. Did you guys have that expectation in the beginning when you were being recruited of like national championship, Final Four, or was it just kind of, hey, we just trying to let's start small, let's win the conference, let's kind of progressively grow the brand of what it was at Marquette at that time?
No, they were ready. They lost to Tulsa in the first round, and all those guys were coming back. That was Cordell Henry's senior year.
Yeah,
Shout out to Cordell, big
Cordell Henry, yeah.
when I was going through the recruiting process, him and Ty Townsend. So those guys were huge in my development,
Yep.
and those guys just lost So they were ready. So they knew how we were going to fit in. They didn't shoot the ball particularly well against Tulsa, so they brought in Steve Novak. They brought in myself to be the reserves to come in and give them a lift from the shooting point of view and also toughness point of view. We were ready to guard, ready to play, ready to dig in. So when we got there in June, Division I, you can get there in June. They were already foaming at the mouth about what's going on next year. With D Wade coming back, you can tell he was just about taking off about who he was about to be. And we saw glimpses of that in high school, but whoever knew him saw, like, he's just different. He's 6'4" like us, 6'5", but the way he was built was different in high school. We knew.
Oh, 100%.
Like, he just moved different than a lot of us. So I already knew he was special, back in the day. So just to see him up close on a daily basis, battling against him on a daily basis, I knew he was special. And I knew that group with Diener and Novak and Robert Jackson and Scott Merritt, they were all ready to take another step. And with Crean leading us, in the summer was hard with weights and training. Camps is like another day of workout. So they used to, in the middle of camp, just like kill you in front of the kids.
Exactly. In front of the kids.
So, like, they were ready, and so when August comes around, you're ready to go home. You're like, man, do I even want to go back? Because this is
right. You're questioning.
Right. I mean? So that's what it was. They were ready to take off. And the things that I was learning, I'm an August birthday, so I was still 17, in June. Just learning from some of these older guys, it was really positive for me. A learning curve, like I said, if you didn't have a father figure or anything like that, college is hard. But once you got it, you got it. And that's what was the fun part for me, especially that freshman year, going to the Final Four.
Absolutely. So tell me about that. You guys knocking off some of the biggest schools, the biggest names, the ones who are ranked at the top. And here comes a small school out of Milwaukee that's making its climb, right?
Yeah.
There's so many different. I just had Lloyd Walton, who years ago they were one of those teams that ended up going to making it that far, playing against Isaiah, right? Then your team, the Final Four, like they've had. Marquette is a school that if you know, it might not be well branded, but if you know. They get wins, and you guys were one of those teams where I was like, I didn't even know Marquette was a school outside of when you and Kevin Menard and D Wade and Cordell were going there. But I'm like, hold on, they're making some noise up there. So tell me about what that journey looked like when you guys were heading to the Final Four, knocking off those teams.
Yeah, and we kind of knew it going into the season, and we started winning and playing well. Like we played Villanova the first game in the coaches versus Cancer in the Garden, and we beat them. And it was just like, man, we can do this. And we started, Conference USA, the top 5 or 6 teams was loaded with DePaul and Louisville and Cincinnati. In particular, those teams was, a gauntlet to go through. So when we beat Louisville at Louisville, we kind of knew, like, we got a chance here. It was down 19 at the half, and we came back, and we were like, okay, we got a chance of winning this. And then we just kept going. We won Conference USA for the first time. And then we got the 3 seed. Got bounced early out of our own conference championship. I think the first round we played UAB, which was like the 40 minutes of hell UAB. They had a lot of Nolan Richardson in them.
Yeah.
I forgot coach's last name, but his first name is Mike. And he was assistant under Nolan Richardson, and he played the same style. So we get bounced early. That actually helped us because we got a chance to regroup. We was winning a lot. And then, we played Holy Cross the first round. And it was just like, man, that first matchup is always the hardest game because
nerves and everything in it.
It don't matter if you're a big school, small school, whatever. That's a champion of another conference. They're going to be ready to go. And just so happened that team was ready to go. And D Wade didn't play that well. Travis kind of led us in that game. I think he had 29 points. He was just rolling. And I made a couple big shots, had a lot of rebounds, and it was just a huge game for why they didn't do it the first year in Tulsa. Yeah. It was a hump up they needed to get over as a group. The monkey off their back. We got through that first game, and everyone felt kind of relieved, like, "Ooh, that first game's out." Then we had to go through Missouri, and Missouri was an animal. They had some really, really good players that it was just like, man. And that game went into overtime. Me and Novak, we made a lot of big threes in that particular game too to help us win. And now you're going to Sweet 16, which Marquette didn't do, in a long time. So that was some, Lloyd Walden, shout out to him, a great friend and mentor as well. Another Bloom guy. So, he's a great guy to talk to as well. And
a lot of the same similarities in a way, with his story. Like, he just dropped his documentary. I was fortunate enough to be in attendance to this last weekend, and I'm just like, as I'm listening to you, I'm like, man, y'all got a lot of outside of him going to Marion, but y'all was Bloom and all of that stuff. So, yep.
No, it's pretty cool, man. I have, like you said, it's just a village of alumni that you know and that you meet. And going through that journey of the Final Four, it's still people I talk to today. We're still on group chats today, the Final Four team. It's just 20-some years later, we're still communicating, still talking.
That's awesome.
Still checking in on each other's, our families' birthdays and their birthdays. We still do that. So that's how I know that group was special.
Yeah. For sure. So clearly you guys make it to the Final Four. Give me your good, bad, and the ugly of that last game, because you guys were in it, most of it.
Oh yeah, like we beat Kentucky in the Elite Eight. They were the number 1 seed.
That was with Rondo and that crew, right? Yeah,
they were loaded. They played really well. And we're fortunate enough. I think Keith Bogans got hurt the game before, sprained his ankle. He still played against us, but he wasn't 100%. And they didn't know who D Wade was. They had no clue. So he came out there and just put on a show, put up
no scouting report. Wow.
Just like, man, he not only the best player that I seen, he was the best player in the tournament. Until we ran into Kansas. And Kansas, we tried to prepare against that fast break. We did our job. We scouted. But if you see that fast break in person, it was a sight to see. It was amazing how they ran that secondary break. And they got up big on us early, and it was just lights out from there. You a hooper, like once you make a couple shots, man, that hoop becomes like an ocean.
It sure does.
Making shots now. You like now it's not
what you gonna do?
Right. It's not Heinrich or Nick Collins. It's everybody making shots. You're like, all right, man. Like, is this y'all day to day?
Yeah.
So that's the bad part. You get there, you lay an egg. The great part, you played in the Superdome. You get there to the Final Four, the first one since the 70s with Lloyd Walden Group. Yeah. So, you're making history in that way, and still the only Final Four since then. So you're remembered, by the alumni, by the people. But particularly you lose that game. You sit there. We watch the final game too, just to get inspiration and see Carmelo Anthony live, and just to see how he played as a pro already in a college setting with his footwork and his jab step shots. We wasn't really doing that yet.
Yeah, that was way. It was so advanced. It's like, all right, we still coming off screens, jab step and go type thing. He was face up, ball movement, physical. It was like poetry.
Yeah, and you like, man, this dude is advanced for his age. And knowing he was only 18, 19, I'm like, man, these guys are different. You knew, like, all of us has that dream of the NBA. We all have it. But you see guys who are that gifted, who become the 1% of guys that make it that far, and you look like, damn, like they were special, and you kind of take the specialties that they have, and you add that into your own game.
Absolutely. So like you said, you see who is becoming that 1% of the 1%. This is your freshman sophomore year, that you're experiencing such success. you quickly had to become a leader. Tell me a little bit about what that role became for you, as you had others like Wesley Matthews who was on your team. That you start to instill in being the ones that are kind of navigating the journey ahead.
Yeah, as freshmen, we were the young pups on the team, and then as seniors, we're trying to get those guys who's coming in back to the place that we left, and that was
Yep.
all of our mission. Steve Novak, myself, Chris Grimm, our seniors, we were like, we got to get these guys back to what we experienced. And we were fortunate enough to do that. With Wes Matthews, Jarrell McNeil, shout out to him, Hillcrest guy,
Yep.
Dominic James from Indiana. They were, a top 15 class coming in. So we had to make sure, like, our egos was checked. These guys need to play. We had the big fella, Dwight Burke from New York. They had a great group coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And as seniors, you wanted to make sure, like, these guys understand this is not a competition of us versus you. Because when you come in that high of a class, you're kind of coming in as a pack.
Yeah.
Like, you guys all know each other.
Yeah.
Your seniors are here. You haven't really got to the point like you were in the Final Four. So it's, it can be some divide in there. So we wanted to make sure they felt welcomed. Coach Green and staff did a great job of welcoming them, making sure we played towards their strengths.
Yes.
That was the first year of the Big East. We got into the Big East, and now this is super Big East. Yeah. This is the top 6 or 7 teams from Conference USA on top of all the teams that didn't leave yet that's in the Big East. So that was Notre Dame.
Notre Dame's still in there, yeah.
And you got to play everybody. So that Big UConn, I mean, it was,
yeah.
That was a battle.
It was brutal night in, night out. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that really helped us, prepare, get those guys better. And that was the first year of like a 10 to 12-year run of making the NCAA tournament. So that's what we wanted to leave out, of being our leaders. Left out of Marquette as the leader of all-time games played at Marquette. Started at the 1, 2, 3, or the 4. I always played different positions. That's why it helped that I can do that at an early age. There was games I started at the point. There was games I started at the 4. There was times I started at the 5. And that was just a testament to the body of work that we put into it, where a coach can plug you anywhere and be successful. And that's how I feel the game should be played. You should not be stuck to one position. Learn how to play with different talents, different people. That doesn't take away from what you do. It's just more so put an enhancement of actually everything that you can do as a player.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So taking all of that into account, you got D-Wade that's going to the league. You got some others who were attempting to put their name in the hat. What was your journey next? Because you didn't stop playing there. So what was that experience for you?
Well, I knew I wanted to play past college. So I was like, hey, I need to, get an agent, and I need to figure out where I'm going to play. And now, high school, like we said, McDonald's All-American nominee, 2-time All-State. College, I was a great role player.
Yep.
So now you going to play overseas. It's like, okay, we need to see if you can score, if you can, if you're the same player you were then. So I was like, well, I'm going to take the non-traditional route, not go to Europe first. I'm going to go to South America. Because South America, I knew you had to get buckets. They paying you to come get buckets.
They're paying you to play, to put the ball in the basket.
Yeah, you gotta listen. We're gonna do everything for you, but you got to get 30 every night. Yep. And I was kind of relishing that challenge again, to show like, hey, I can still do that with everything else that I learned at Marquette. Now I need to put it back together. And I try to tell my pros that I coach with the TBT is, overseas is a combination of how you played in high school with what you learned in college. So the toughness and the everything that you brought as a high school player, the confidence, the know you're going to get buckets, that's overseas with the structure and discipline that you learned in college. So you blend it back together. And that's what I did overseas. I was blessed enough to see 18 countries, played in 9 different countries, won 9 championships in 11 years, won 4 MVPs in different countries. And I was just loved the transition of meeting new people and meeting new cultures. It was so fun to me. When I got my first job was in Colombia, South America. Now, we know when we hear about Colombia, we think about, oh man, you don't want to be. I was in Bogota, so people are like, man, that's the worst city to be in. So my mind is already like, man, what am I doing? There's places I'm going, but people don't realize like we from Chicago, so there's always an area you're not supposed to go to. Whatever country you go to, that doesn't mean I'm about to step foot in the 2 blocks they tell me not to go to. I already know not to go there.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You know how to keep your head on a swivel. You know how to check your surroundings. You know,
we grew up that way, so I don't need nobody telling me what not to do. I can already sense that. So that's not going to deter me from traveling to these places. But being young, I traveled with a duffel bag full of shoes. And the first thing going through customs, they like,
they got you. They got you.
They took me to the back room. Like, they took all my insoles out of my shoes. And they like, I'm like, man, I'm here to play ball. And just learning cultures. And they said I was good. And I'm meeting my driver. And now I got a picture of Colombian people in my head. I'm Googling stuff. And they're like light skin. They like whiter complexion. Yeah. So I get out there. They like our complexion. So I'm like, man, I'm confused. Right. So I see the dude picking me up. I'm like, what's up, bro? Where we going? He don't speak no English.
No English. Right, none.
So that puts me in another perspective of like, stop being naive to, different things. Like grow up, understand there's different people, different cultures. And that really helped me from that day to appreciate people for who they are and to understand like different cultures will help you blend in who you are as a person too.
Absolutely. No, it's funny because I had that same situation my last year playing in Morocco. I'm going through, I got the big suitcase full of shoes because you need several pairs of shoes to hoop. You need practice running, everything. They stopped me at cussing. They was like, look, homie, what is this? I'm like, I'm playing basketball. Like, what team are you playing for? I'm playing for Fed. It was a whole thing, but it's just so funny that, that happens so frequently. And like you said, like you get there, you Google, you're like, I didn't know where Fez, Morocco was, but my agent was like, yeah, you going over there. I'm like, cool, let's go make it happen. And then, you do like you said, you do the Google search and you're looking at this and it's like fairly whitewashed, ultimately. It's like you're looking at the most fair skin of anyone in Morocco. I get there. Right. They looking like us.
Right. Yeah.
They just speaking Arabic, and that's the thing. And I'm just like, hey man, y'all lying on these websites. Stop that. Yes. And like you said, you just adjust and you dive into the culture, and it's such a beautiful space to be in.
No, it is. And
let me ask you this: where was your favorite spot?
Well, I played in England for 5 years. I played for a great coach, a great system, and it was a lot of winning. And my coach now is the assistant coach for the Philadelphia 76ers. Fab Flournoy is his name, and he was just an awesome coach, and he was a player coach. So I've never played for a player coach. He still liked to get it in, played at McNeese State, and he was older, and he just loved the game. And I just took so much from him. I was like, man, loyalty matters to me. I went back there my second year, won an MVP my first year, went back. We won 2 more that year. I tore my Achilles. And I'm 25, 26 years old. I tore my Achilles. And, that's a long recovery. So the doctor immediately said, if you want to fly home, I don't know if you can because of blood clots. Because, you're going to be in a boot. You're that high in the air. It's not going to be a lot of circulation through your Achilles. So your best route is to stay here and rehab here. Now, I don't have any family there. No significant other at the time. It's just me in a foreign country by myself dealing with one of the worst injuries as a hooper to deal with. And it was, like I said, when things bad happen to you, there's three great things about to happen right after
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
And that's really what happened. I came back. I tore my Achilles in late February of 2011. I was back on the court in September, ready to play a full season,
Yeah,
right back again. And that loyalty, they signed me back, not knowing if I would be the same player or not. They're like, no, we want you back. Those fans took care of me. They became family. Those players and coaches, they all came over to my house every day, took me to my strength and conditioning classes that I had, did my rehab for me. And at that time, I was 2 years removed from losing my mom.
oh wow,
So these guys became like family to me.
yeah,
And it was so important for my development as a person because, that's the time when you're depressed, you can't call your mom. My dad passed away as well. So it was just like, you're dealing with a lot.
yeah,
Uh, and these people kind of took care of me. So that loyalty helped me become a better player and a better person. That following year, when I came back in September, we ended up winning all 4 domestic championships you can win in that league. I won league MVP, coming off the
yeah.
worst injury you can
You,
have,
you
played
brought
in every
you
game.
brought all the hardware home.
Brought it all home after an injury,
Yeah,
So, that's why I really try to relay that message is, your environment is important. Leaving
yep,
your environment and becoming the person you are supposed to become requires growth. And sometimes growth is not, inside of a 10-minute radius of your neighborhood. You might have
yep.
to leave to come back to become the person you need to become.
Facts, facts. So obviously, you're coming to a close at the end of your career. You're
Yep.
taking the shoes off for the last time. What was kind of going through your mind? Obviously, you're having such success. You're winning championships,
Yeah.
MVPs. 11 years comes faster than you ever expect.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
always does. But what was that kind of for you? That space that you were in as you were making that transition.
Yeah, I was always a little different in my mind where, like I said, I was 17 when I entered college and I was 20 when I left. So I was young.
Yep.
So when it was time for me to retire at 31, that was already 11 years. Most people at
Yeah.
31 is like in their prime, like at the back end of their prime. So I'm going into my 11th year and I'm always thinking about what's next. So in the summer times, every time I came home, I worked Marquette camps. I worked at, different individuals with kids. I did some training. I always was kind of thinking, because we had to work the Marquette camps when we played at Marquette. And then I did it 10 years after I graduated. And all the
Yeah.
guys were like, why are you still like working camps? And I didn't know at the time why I was still doing it. But, I love to work with kids. I love to work with kids and the teams and like
Yep.
build for that week up to, Championship Friday. I was always excited for those kids
Yeah. Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
them better. And camp day was like the best time for me. So I was figuring out how to run camps, in my head that didn't have nothing to do with Marquette or anything. Like, how can I run my own camps with my own
Yep.
name? Started at, with 5 or 10 kids and just build it. Because it didn't really matter to me how kids started. I knew I was going to put everything into it and I was just going to build it.
Yeah.
So when that last year came around, my 11th year, it was more so every summer I came home, I started working out clients and my clientele became really high, where I had 30 to 40 kids that I was training. Um, and that was starting to become the same amount of money that I was going to make if I played.
Really.
So, I had to make that decision to say,
Yep.
you know what, I'm done. I'm
Yep.
going to go and start this next career while I can still walk, while I can still breathe the game, still love the
Yep.
game. Shit, I still
Yep.
play 2, 3 times a week now because
Yeah. Yep.
I
Yep.
just love it. That's just who I am.
Yep.
Uh, but I knew my mind needed to start to build what was next.
Yep.
And I had twins at the time
Okay.
that was just born, and they were born in Japan. I played in Japan. That was my second favorite place, was Japan.
Really. Okay.
And I wanted to make sure I was an involved dad from the beginning. I didn't
Yeah.
want to, sometimes when you play overseas or NBA or coach, you lose the day-to-day job of taking your kids to school. I didn't want to lose that. So I wanted to be that dad because I didn't have that. So
Yep.
I wanted them to see that this is involved dad every day. So that was my career path that I was starting to go down. So that's how it happened. I was blessed to start with a great group of girls that were really good in their class, that attracted more girls to want to do training with me. And those parents was asking like, "Hey, do you want to start an AAU program? There's nothing in the area. Do you want to start this?" And I was just like, as long as I can start with kids that I work with, not kids that might come from different neighborhoods just because I played at Marquette. I was like, no, I'd rather just start it with the kids that I'm going to do training with too. So when we put the first product out there, people are going to be like, man, who are those kids? And that's what I wanted from, the coaches that I had that was great, from Fab Flournoy in England to Coach Crean to my high school coach. These kids was going to have super discipline. They're going to be diving on the floor, taking charges, all the stuff that I did. They're going to be cheering for teammates. They're going to be on the bench clapping. I'm going to be on them about their body language. I'm going to take pride into how many high fives they do in the huddles or at practice. I'm going to do all the little stuff. So when you see our team play, don't matter, because we were independent at the time. It don't matter what circuit we play on or not, you're going to see a brand of basketball that you're going to want to bring your kids to. Yeah. And that's what happened. That first year we had 2 girls teams and 2 boys teams. That next year, second year, we had 20 teams that came to try out. So it went from 4 to 20. And then it just took off. We're going into our 9th year now. We got 126 teams. We're the biggest program in the country. We play on great circuits, and it's just been a blessing to see when I said I'm done playing to where it is now, just having that faith and that work ethic and that belief that once I stop dribbling a basketball, the next aspect of my life is going to be just as important, and I'm going to be remembered more for what I'm doing now than what I did when I was a player.
Absolutely. I mean, that's such a beautiful story of just Chapman Basketball Academy being something that started off as really just around your passions, right? Around the game that you love, and just having that trust, and it grew into even more and building into more. Now, what we're seeing, like you said, you have a huge platform now that you're impacting several generations consistently year after year through this tool that you and I fell in love with through the game of basketball, which is awesome, man. Congratulations with that. Let me ask you this, because I got a couple questions actually, but during that time, did you ever feel that, that moment of like, man, I missed the game, or some people have fell into depression. Some people have kind of gone into, the dark spaces. Did that ever happen with you, or were you able to, motivate yourself in a different area?
Yeah, it definitely happened. I think that happens to everyone. If you played like we have since 19 years old, and that's all you know, you get a little form of like PTSD. Like, this is what you know. This is who you are. This is the community of people who told you this is your life. So you grow up in a certain sense of not knowing anything else, but your identity as a person was a basketball player. So you have identity crisis. But lucky for me, I found that passion that I wanted to do right away, and I still played. I played the TBT tournament when it was first going. I still played over the summers. I never stopped playing. It's just I stopped, traveling to play. Sort of sense. But, from a personal growth, personal relationship with the game of basketball, I need to sweat. I need to feel involved in the game. I need to talk trash. I need that outlet.
It's that outlet. Yeah, absolutely.
And it keeps you young. It keeps your brain fresh. It keeps your mind fresh. So I just translated that over to my work ethic. Like practice planning, watching film with the team. I make sure that I turn every stone when I'm coaching, or if I'm doing training, or if I'm running the business side. you got to make sure you translate that over to what you learned through the game, so you're not identified only as a player. You started to use those tools of what made you a successful player
Yeah.
into the next journey. And I started to do that right away. I didn't care about the perception of me as a player anymore, because we all got that ego like, oh, no one's talking about me anymore. No one's writing
That
about me.
identity.
No one's
Yep.
checking on me anymore. And once though that limelight starts to dim a little bit is when your dark days start to happen.
Yep.
So identifying that, understanding you are going to have those dark days, don't run from it. Understand why you having them, and really have a relationship with yourself, with God, and understanding like there's brighter times ahead. That was a transitional period for me, of having that. Like I said, it's always three great things that happen,
Yep.
after something bad. So when my mom died, it was actually, I felt like when my life started,
Mm.
in a sense of I was maturing more. I was making better decisions. I was more focused. I was living for a greater purpose.
Yeah.
It all started to click better together. Um,
Yeah.
and that's something that I try to tell people is look at the brighter side of things. So, that time period of going through that depression, I always started like, no, I'm diving into this kid. I'm gonna make this kid the best player in the state.
Yeah.
I've been through injuries. I've been through fathers or moms not being around. I've been through it all, so I have relatability to people, and I can meet them where they are and help to get them where they're trying to get to. So that's really a strength of mine, is really meeting a kid and meeting where they are and getting them to where they're trying to get to. And that's what I
Absolutely.
kind of dove into to make me a better coach, better trainer, and better business person.
Absolutely. It's funny because, unfortunately, so many athletes have to deal and combat with that identity crisis kind of issue of not being the big person on campus and not
Yep.
getting, walking in the room and everybody celebrating. It's like, yeah, that light dims a little bit. And it's okay. Like,
It's
be
okay.
confident in that, because just know, as you said, there's going to be more after this, that you are going to just figure out what that transition looks like for you. So, no, I'm glad you spoke on that. Here's something: you're using coaching not only for the youth that you're doing, but you spoke on something with TBT.
Yeah.
Tell me how that started, because you were playing in TBT. For those who don't know, TBT is the basketball tournament. A lot of former athletes get to play.
Yep.
Old collegiate teams get to alumni come together, and they're playing for a big pot of money. And you
Yep.
guys happen to be very successful in that. But tell me about how you got involved and invested in that.
Yeah, that first year, we didn't play. Marquette University didn't play. It was my last year of playing. And then that following summer was the first year I retired.
Yeah.
So we were having, discussions of, do we want to play or not? And the guys was like, yeah, we want to do it. So we started to put our group together, put our teams together. I wasn't involved in the GM role at the time. Dan Fitzgerald, who was a college roommate of mine, him and Travis Diener, they were kind of the GMs of the time. And
Mhm.
Wes Matthews was coaching us. And we put a roster together. I played in it for the first 3 years, ended up in the Elite Eight a few times as a player. Then West's schedule started to get a little bit more hectic. The guys knew that I was coaching now, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to coach this group and start your journey of coaching, older people?"
Yeah.
So all the guys wanted me to do it. And then the first year we went to the Final Four, and I coached that group for 4 years after that, after I played. And it was a challenge coaching older people, having confidence in yourself. And a lot of these guys got better resumes than you. As far as
Yeah.
I coached Travis Diener, I coached Jarrell McNeil. These are like top 5 players that ever come through Marquette. I coached all these NBA players, DJO and Dwight Bikes, all these guys who played in the NBA.
Yeah.
And, you got to have a sense of, I'm okay, coaching guys like this, and I don't have to, wear a different hat to be like, I'm your boss now. It's like, no, like you got to learn how to, wear different hats. And that actually helped me become a better coach is we play the game. You don't have to be, the coach that's going to be like, oh, you in trouble. You didn't touch the line.
Yeah.
You got to have relatability to the players because they know you play the game too. So that was a big growth for me. We lost the Final Four. The next year we went to the championship game and we lost to Ohio State in Chicago at Wintrust.
Wow.
That was for $2 million. We lost that game in the finals. And it was heartbreaking, but that was the best thing that happened to me and that group because we came back hungrier. I came back a better coach. I came back not caring about other people's feelings, the players. I came in dialed in to finishing the mission. And that mission was during COVID and everything was shut down. So we were the first sports to come back. We played in the bubble in Ohio, and every team had their own floor. And we were locked in. We were ready to go. We talked about how we lost. We met as a team every day. We had the camaraderie. We knew we were going to win that year based on our togetherness that we had.
You being in Chicago, losing to Ohio State, one that I want to say Evan Turner, another Chicago guy, was coaching on that side. So to have two Chicago guys at that time to be battling for the championship, that's pretty monumental. Being right there at the crib.
It was fun battling against them and just knowing like every minute of the game matters in the Elam minute. You got to win by a certain number. And we just kept getting better at it. We was actually up during the Elam ending, and we end up losing. And that stuck with us about like we got to get over this hump. And like losing to them was the best thing that happened to our team. That we probably didn't feel like that at the time, but we knew if we wanted to win, we had to become a team of willingness to have the basketball as a star player, not the team of the guy's, name on the back. That's what we had to get, out of our head, and it helped us. And I held them accountable way better than I did the year before because of how we lost that last year. And that really stuck with me as a coach. Once I can do that to old guys, it don't matter now, a 9-year-old to a 17-year-old, that's nothing.
That's nothing now,
35-year-old who don't know they on the opposite side of the hill, and they
got egos on top of
you know what I mean? So I dealt with that. So this is easy now.
Yeah. Now tell me this. Now with you dabbling into coaching, 35-year-olds and older guys, and obviously you're hitting every level. Did that start to add a little appetite to want to maybe coach collegiate or pro ball, or like do you still have that appetite to be able to do that now since you've been in that space?
I had opportunities after we won TBT. I had opportunities to coach. I had my chances in college. I got interviewed by different colleges as well to be head coaches, and in high school. Different things happen, and I was always in this space, like I talked about previously, is I want to be there for my kids. I want to be there for their journey. I want to help develop kids from U9 and U17 to deal with what they're going to see once they get to college. And that was my lane. I didn't want to give up this enterprise that I'm building now to, sit on the bench. And then in 2-3 years, we all get fired, and now we got to go somewhere else and, keep building. I didn't want to go through that. I've seen a lot of people do it, and I didn't want that to be my path. So, that's why I wanted my own journey and my own ceiling to feel like, I'm impacting younger kids' lives as opposed to, older kids.
No, I love that. I love that you're in your purpose. I love that you found your passion and exactly the lane that you want to be in. So, bro, I'm proud of you. Congratulations on all the success. You've been killing it, bro. I've been watching from afar, so proud to know that we got the battle from the days of just battling,
Yep.
Joliet and Bloom to seeing, at Final Four and beyond, and what you're doing right now, giving back to the game is so incredibly important. Let me ask you this final question before we get out of here, man. You're seeing the success. You've transitioned successfully. What would you kind of share to those who are currently, because the sports in general as a whole, it's a different game right now, right?
Yeah.
You got so much money out there, so many other influences. You got advertising agencies already at a younger age. But what's some of the kind of you know what would you kind of share with them as they're kind of figuring out what's next in their transition?
Yeah. The biggest things I would say is like on the journey of what you're learning, all right, is don't think of yourself as a basketball player. Now in this era, think of yourself as an entrepreneur that's playing basketball. And that's why I try to, tell a lot of people, be quick to listen, slow to talk. Because 90% of everything that you do is how you respond. If is, you gotta be quick. Slow to respond to things.
Mm-hmm.
Taking as much, advice that you can. That's what I would tell people. Take as much advice as you can. Listen. You got power of your words, power of your tongue. Be careful of who you're hanging around with, especially the younger generation. It all matters, when you're building. So think of yourself as an entrepreneur, as a young player, because that's what it's becoming now. You're your own LLC. As you
Yep.
become, a sophomore, junior, senior in high school, start to think about your journey outside of the game. Have good financial advice. Have good people around you that can teach you more than just a sport. I think all these college kids need financial advisors, because a lot of us didn't have that as parents. So, if these kids who are making 200,000 as freshmen, if they can have a financial advisor or somebody that can help them, they don't need that money right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, help them out of understanding what's that money going to be used for later. And then for a lot of guys that are stuck before that second half start, really start to dive into your issues, because we run away from it for so long.
The trauma.
Basketball is
Yep.
always our safe haven. At some point, you need to, face those issues. Whether you're talking to a sports psychologist or a regular psychologist, it's okay to talk to people. It's okay to express your feelings. As men, especially inner city men, and black men in particular, we get judged on, things like that. We're not talking mental anxiety and mental, performance and issues are a real thing.
Emotional intelligence. Yep.
You
All
know what
those
I mean?
things.
So
Yep.
really dive into that. Don't look at it as a sense of, I'm losing my manhood. But you're actually going to become more of a man, more of a person for your loved ones once you realize and go down that path that God made for you. So you need to understand that and open that door, because once you stop playing, all those demons are going to pop on you that you never dealt with. Now that the ball stops, you're gonna have to deal with that. So make sure you got the right people involved, right message involved, because that's the thing that's gonna save you to help you on your second half.
Absolutely, man. You spot on. I couldn't said it better. Could not have said it better. Where can should people want to stay in tune with you? Where can they kind of keep up with you and find out more information about what you got going on with CBA and all the things around?
Yeah, we got our own website, ChapmanBasketballAcademy.com. We got our own gym that's opening up in 6 weeks, Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, nice.
So we're doing big things. We got a huge following. We do summer camps. We do personal training. We do team takeovers where we come and teach. Maybe it's a parent coach that works with the youth team from 3rd through 8th grade. We come in and teach them skills and drills. We do film. We do weight room, and we partner with people who do that stuff. So We do a lot of different things on a daily basis. We are open all the time for people, whether it's myself that's training or a group of trainers that we have. We are a corporation that inspires and uplifts the youth. So on a daily basis, you will find things on our website at chapmanbasketball.com.
Perfect, man. Well, look, an incredible coach, incredible basketball player, but even beyond that, just a great man, a faithful man, a man of God, and as well as a dad, which is always something we salute over here at the second half.
Absolutely.
So, bro, man, I appreciate you sharing your journey, sharing your story on the second half podcast. I can't wait to get this out, man. I promise we all gonna get back together. I promise we're gonna grab everybody and just, man, we got to do it just for the culture one time, just bring everybody back. So, yes, sir, bro, man, I appreciate you. All those tuning into the second half podcast, be sure to hit that like, follow, subscribe. Go ahead and hit the website, grab some merch as well. We appreciate you. We are out. Peace.